So, today's video is all about the one thing that if you do this one thing, your whole life will absolutely change. And this is being sparked by a quantum healing session I just did with a client this morning, and a really big reoccurring theme that came up from her that I've seen with so many other people over the years of my coaching. And so I wanted to bring this to you. I wanted to bring something that will help you. So, this video is for those who are currently struggling, feeling like they're not good enough. This is for you if you feel like you keep doing all these things and you don't feel worthy of deserving better, if you feel like you're stuck in patterns. And this is for you if maybe you don't realize it, but you have some underlying guilt or shame or judgment towards yourself. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when we have these kinds of emotions, it really, really affects our vibration. It's a very dense energy. I think every single one of us watching this, whether you're catching it live, if you're catching it live, say hi. If you're catching the replay, comment replay. That's awesome. And I'm glad to have you here. But every single one of us has moments in our lives where we can relate to, making a mistake and having a lot of regret. And from that mistake, we end up beating ourselves up. We maybe end up feeling even worse, even more unworthy. We start to create these beliefs that we're not good enough. And this can create a really, really strong cycle in our life that you may not even be aware of. So, first things first on this video is I hope you have an open mind and you can have an open heart to listen and to question and look at, where are these things showing up in my own life? Because I promise you, this is where the work begins and this is where the transformation and freedom begins by having that understanding. So, if I look at certain things that I used to regret in my life, I was always super insecure, over anxious, and I would beat myself up and judge myself for a lot of the things that I did. Like whether that was things related to school and, things that I said that then made me feel really embarrassed and made me feel like I wasn't good enough or like I didn't fit in. Um, it could have even been, for me, simply existing felt like a challenge. Like I felt like I didn't deserve to exist, and so I felt like even just taking up space in a room was a problem. And this added to my reasons of like staying quiet and just being even more of a wallflower who just kind of sat there quietly and tried not to don't want to rock the boat because I'm afraid that if I say or do something, I'm going to say or do the wrong thing and people are going to judge or they're not going to like me and then I'll feel embarrassed or ashamed, and so I almost tried to avoid doing that. So that was my personal pattern. Um but if I also look at, some of the mistakes that I made in friendships or things that I regretted later on of how I showed up or how I treated people, um, these experiences can create a really, really dense and heavy energy. And when we continue to hold on to them, it creates more patterns, it creates more of that same thing. And so, what was so interesting, I want to share this story of my client's call today because I think, and I'm not going to tell her full story and it's going to be totally anonymous anyway, but I just think in general, people can probably relate. So, we were doing this quantum healing session, which is so incredibly powerful at getting into the subconscious and looking at certain blocks and emotions and traumas that we're still holding on to. And she had been noticing in her business right now that she didn't really consistently show up. She knew the things she needed to do, but she wouldn't go do it. And what I kind of questioned her about is like, what is it that doesn't make you trust yourself? Because there's something here, you know what you need to do, you know you're capable, you know it's all possible, but you're not doing it, which to me means that there's some kind of weird disconnect here that you're not trusting yourself fully. And I've been there before because of my own experiences. For me, I never trusted myself fully with money or with like business decisions. I didn't really trust myself fully in relationships because I had very few relationship experiences and I didn't really trust that I knew what to do, or I didn't feel confident enough. In business, I made some bad choices with money, and so then I didn't trust myself with money. So because I didn't trust myself to have it and make the right decisions with it, I kind of blocked myself from actually receiving more because I was like, I don't know what to do with it and I don't believe I'm going to do the right thing, so I don't even want to have it." And that's what happens energetically. And that's what's so important. Let me know if you can relate. Let me know if you have any questions as I'm going through this. But this is how our own personal lack of trust really sabotages everything. And we are our own biggest blocks. So, whatever area you're struggling in your life right now, this is the one thing that you can do. And I'm going to continue to share more. But, like, if you can learn how to shift your belief of yourself and have a full sense of trust in yourself, by doing this work, by questioning these beliefs, by looking at the patterns and the programming that is currently playing out, because it's those beliefs that create the actions. So, if I believe that I'm not good with money because of mistakes I've made in the past, then I'm going to continue to sabotage myself from earning more or receiving more. And with my client today, she didn't trust herself because of mistakes she had made in past relationships. So even though she's happily married and has a beautiful family, she had some regret from previous experiences where she was um like she's like I don't even recognize the person I was before because I was like so numb, I was so tapped out and just kind of like didn't know what I wanted or what I was looking for, and I made some mistakes, some decisions that I still feel extremely guilty about. I still regret, I feel ashamed, I feel like I'm a piece of shit. And those were her words, and I started to tear up when I heard it because my my practice and my process to get to where I am today is about being able to unconditionally love ourselves, and it was a long journey to get there for myself, but as you can imagine, most of us have probably said things to ourselves like that before, where we're like, oh, like I'm just a piece of shit and I don't deserve anything good because of these decisions. And hearing her say that, like, literally broke my heart because nobody deserves to feel that way. And yet I know that most of the population, most of you watching this, probably in one way or another feel unworthy of something better. And your unworthiness is most likely stemming from your inability to forgive a past mistake or your inability to let go of the past and whatever decisions you made back then. And so you're continuing to, or you may be, I don't want to say you are, because maybe you're not, but most people continue to allow the past to dictate their future. They continue to let those past mistakes and regrets dictate how they see themselves now. And so it's like, I don't feel worthy now of something better because I did this in the past and I made that mistake and I hurt that person. And it's like we're piling up this karmic debt of our mistakes and then continuing to create suffering for ourselves now because we don't feel worthy of anything better. And yet, by perpetuating that cycle and staying even more in the struggle, in the guilt and shame and regret and judgment, we're just spreading out more negative energy, not only in ourselves and our bodies and our minds and our spirits, but we're also then giving that out into the world. Because if we, that's a whole nother tangent I won't get into, but like if we are in that place, we can't be showing up from unconditional love for those around us. And one of my biggest, my hugest inspirations is Louise Hay, because she's all about unconditional love and literally about healing your physical body, healing different ailments through the power of love. And the thing that, because I don't have because I'm not doing this recorded and editing it. I don't have I can't put the little image in here, but we have the vibrational scale, and I talk about this in a lot of my previous videos. So if you haven't watched them, I highly recommend checking them out. But we have this vibrational scale, and it's like a funnel, it's like a little upside down triangle, and the lower vibration emotions are at the bottom. So some of the lowest emotions possible. And this has been measured like by different scientific things. So it's not just, I mean, logically it's going to make sense to you, but it's also like literally proven that like guilt and shame and grief, those are at the very bottom. And you can imagine right now, as I'm saying that, you can visualize that, like, yes, when I feel guilt or shame or grief, I feel very stuck. I feel very trapped. I feel very like consumed by it. There's not much hope. There's not much light or openness, right? Whereas as we continue to move up the funnel and into higher vibrational states and higher vibrational emotions, it opens up. And it's literally like you can start to breathe again because you're like, oh, okay, I'm not stuck in these really dense places anymore. I'm up here now. I'm starting to feel a little bit more content. I'm starting to feel a little bit more satisfied. I'm starting to feel a little bit more happy, more peaceful, more loving. And like unconditional love is one of the top ones before full blown enlightenment. And pretty much just like those master sages and stuff and like, archetypes end up at full blown enlightenment, but we can all get to that unconditional love. Um, and I don't even remember how I started this tangent about the vibrations, but the point is that as long as we're living from these negative or lower vibrational states, it's going to affect how we feel, how we think, how we show up, and it's also going to affect what we attract to us. So, what's so fascinating is that, and I've seen this like hundreds of times in clients and in friends and family members and people I've met around the world just traveling, random people, but like when we believe something is true for ourselves, we tend to attract those things that match that because we are all magnetic beings, we're all energy, and like attracts like. So if I believe I'm unworthy, and let's just go with my example. If I've made poor investments with money and I have this story, this belief that I'm not good with money and I don't feel worthy because I'm still judging myself for the past and I'm still feeling like a failure, then I am going to continue to attract experiences that mirror that back to me and that literally say, yeah, here's another example of how you're bad at money, or here's another thing that's going to make you feel like a failure and make you not trust yourself, right? And so I stay in this lower vibrational state and I continue to attract more of those lower vibrational responses and experiences. Now, through choosing love, which I'll get into, if you haven't already checked out my videos on Ho'oponopono or forgiveness, check those out. After you finish this video, check those videos out because I talk all about how to harness that and why forgiveness for the self actually allows you to get out of that dense vibration and into a higher one, and then allows you to open up to the truth of your worthiness. It allows you to call in and attract the things that you do really deserve. I also have an overnight Ho'oponopono meditation, which is really powerful for clearing, releasing old stagnant emotions and things from the subconscious. And because you're clearing, because you're releasing those things, it helps you open up to miracles and stuff. So if you're finding this helpful, please give it a thumbs up so far, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I got a coffee today. I usually try not to drink coffee because it makes me like really hyper. Um, so when we can connect back into unconditional love, and that's going to be a process. You're not going to go from, feeling like a failure and judging yourself for all your mistakes to immediately being like, I love myself. It's perfect. Like it is going to be a process. It can be it can be increased and sped up through the inner work, through the awareness, the self reflection, through quantum healing, which I've just opened up one more spot for private 8-week package with the quantum healing. The link, I'll drop it down below after this video, or you can go to caramichelle.co slash quantum dash healing. It's like super wordy, but to learn more. And what we do by when we shift into more of a vibration of love, when we're able to forgive ourselves for those past mistakes, we set ourselves free. And it doesn't mean that we justify, it doesn't mean that the things we did were like okay and we don't have to have any accountability anymore. That's not really what forgiveness is. Forgiveness isn't about releasing accountability. Forgiveness is about choosing something better. And it's choosing freedom. It's choosing to let yourself continue to move forward instead of holding on to the anger, resentment, pain, judgment for yourself or for the person who hurt you. So, forgiveness is really about cultivating and choosing love no matter what has happened or what has gone on for you, choosing love above everything else. That's what's so powerful. That's also why it's so challenging and why a lot of people don't necessarily want to do it because a lot of times we want to stay stuck in our story. So, with this session today, bringing this full circle, kind of coming back to the beginning, is that my client was feeling she was holding on to a lot of regret and shame and guilt around past mistakes in relationships. And what we uncovered through the quantum healing and through connecting to her subconscious and to her higher self is that we were able to see that this lack of trust from her relationships and from these choices was exactly what was translating now into the present moment and causing her not to trust herself in her business. And this is why this work is so powerful because a lot of times we can't connect these pieces, or we struggle to connect them on our own. But if you don't trust yourself because you're still holding on to regret or guilt or shame, you're not going to trust yourself now, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a career or business, whether it's in the choices you're making in your life. There's something that's kind of like messing up with your vibration and causing you to continue to question yourself. And it's in that that we end up sabotaging, blocking, and perpetuating those cycles. So, some people might not like this video because I'm kind of in a roundabout way calling you out on self-awareness and on radical ownership or responsibility for yourself and your vibration. But I want you to know I'm doing it from a place of love and inviting you to forgive yourself and to love yourself unconditionally no matter what mistakes you've made. And one of my favorite quotes that I told this client today, and I tell all the clients in my 90-day program, it's like a really key one for me around releasing the past, is to remember that we were always doing the best with what we knew at the time. Same with if someone hurts you, remember that they were doing the best with what they knew at that time. You're so welcome. Thank you all. I'm so glad you're resonating. Um, Nobody You did not make those actions or make those choices intentionally to cause yourself harm or to hurt someone else or to, create a problem. You did the best with what you knew at that time, and unfortunately, you made a mistake or it didn't work out the way you wanted it to. But continuing to harbor negative emotions or guilt or shame or resentment towards yourself is not going to benefit you in any way. It's not going to help you grow, and it's surely not going to help you create the life that you're meant to create. So we need to and we get to shift that perspective. We get to shift that paradigm and start to see those mistakes as literally just lessons and catalysts for growth, as opportunities to come back to a place of love and forgiveness. And instead of continuing to play out those patterns, we get to love ourselves through that process. We get to love ourselves even when we're not perfect. And it's in doing that that you actually open yourself up for miracles and you raise yourself on that vibrational scale I was talking about before. And you start to see that you do deserve better and that you are not your mistakes. And what did I say? I said something today to this client. It felt so so beautiful, and I'm not gonna be able to remember it word for word, but I basically was just saying, like, you are like, those mistakes don't define who you are as a person. They just show who you were at that time, right? At that time when you were operating from wounding and you were feeling unworthy or you were feeling really stuck and lost, and so you made these decisions and you tried to fill the void and you tried to, cling to this or make this happen, or you created pain and suffering for others because you were hurting. Those experiences in your life do not define who you are right now. They just define where you were at that point in time. They just show that you were struggling at one point or another and that that was the way you kind of coped with it or that was the way you handled things. But continuing to identify from our past is one of the biggest struggles and one of the biggest issues, I think, honestly, as a planet, is that every single one of us, again, maybe not everyone, but like majority of us are still living from our past and letting our past mistakes, weigh us down or determine our worth. And so we still feel unworthy because of those things, when in reality, that doesn't have to mean anything. Your past decisions don't have to mean anything. Your past mistakes, the things you said to people, the things you did, let's look at it, let's learn from it. Let's make sure that in the future we choose something more loving, but we don't need to identify and define ourselves by those mistakes. We can just continue to move forward and see ourselves now as this pure vessel, this divine being who is so much more than those experiences. And so gonna wrap this up. Thank you all for being here. If you found this helpful, please thumbs up, subscribe, share, um, and just remember that, yeah, your past doesn't define you. And the biggest thing you can do to change your life is to choose unconditional love for yourself and for others, to choose to love yourself even though you've made mistakes, to choose to feel worthy right now, even though maybe there's been times where you feel unworthy, right? And maybe there are things you've done that you wish you could change. We all have those moments, and that's natural and normal, but we get to choose what we do with them. We get to choose how we move forward. And so I invite each of you to choose that unconditional love, to realize that you deserve better. You're not your past, you're not your mistakes. And if there's anyone out there watching who wants extra support with this, wants to know how to shift this, I have a couple amazing resources. I've got a free mindset training link down below that's talking all about reprogramming your mind and shifting from that past identity to create a new clean slate and build yourself up as the full on, confident, badass human that you are. And I've also got a quantum healing package to work directly with me and do this deep subconscious reprogramming, this energy healing work where we connect into your higher self. We connect to God consciousness and source to help us shift and repair a lot of these low vibration emotions, a lot of these things that you might not even consciously be aware of. Like today with this client, this woman I gave as the example throughout the video, she wasn't even consciously aware of where this came from. She just knew that she had a lot of guilt and shame around these mistakes. And as we got into it, it became very clear exactly why she had made those decisions at the time. And this was a really profound and healing release for her to understand why she had done that, because instead of continuing to beat herself up and feel bad and unworthy, she finally could understand where it was coming from and we could heal that. And so that was really, really powerful. So again, I'll drop that link for the quantum healing down below as well. Um, and I hope you all have the most beautiful days and choose unconditional love. Choose to forgive yourself. choose to see that you are so much more than any of your experiences or any of your mistakes in the past. And sending so much love your way. Take care.